Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 13 of the BillyJoe podcast. Your host, Joe.
And I'm your boy, Billy.
Just first off, I want to just thank Billy for holding down the fort last week. As you all know, I wasn't here. My father's not doing well. I just appreciate all the messages I've received, the love and support. Thank you very much. Without further ado, we have one special guest, a two-time world champion, IBO and IBF, Mr. Billy the Kid Dib. Billy.
Oh, man.
Thank you for coming in, man. We really appreciate it.
That was like a boxing intro, right?
It was, yeah. He rehearsed it earlier, Bill. He rehearsed it earlier,
I
cousin.
like that.
I've been working on it.
I was getting ready to run out and start shadow boxing.
Hey, to be honest, I actually do that with my two girls, right? So the whole ladies and gentlemen.
I love that.
So, yeah.
I do the same with my son, trust me.
It's good to get him started early,
That's
bro.
awesome.
Yeah.
Before we start off, we actually want to thank your cousin, Bill,
Yes.
from Kahil Meats in Bass Hill. We actually had a barbecue with the boys just before shooting this episode. So how it happened, I've reached out to Billy just through Instagram, and to show you how humble this man is and what kind of human being he is. Bill actually replied, literally, it was within minutes, saying, mate, I'd love to come on, whatever I can do for you guys. Then my mate Bill, who I've known for many years and I've been getting my meats from him, picks up the phone, rings me up. He goes, man, Billy Dib's my cousin. I go, bro, come on. I go, is it like Lebo cousin or like cousin?
Nah, it's cousin.
He goes,
There you
bro,
go.
he's my first cousin. He goes, you know what? I want to sponsor the show, the episode. He goes, I'm going to bring some meats. Let's have a feed. So Bill, Sam and the boys at Cahill, mate, what a
Check
feed.
him out, guys. Bass Hill.
Bass Hill Plaza opposite Woolworths. This meat will literally melt in your mouth. Thanks again, boys. Billy.
Oh, man.
All right, we've got all the formalities out of the way.
Let's go, baby.
I've done all the talking so far. Bill, why don't you
Bill,
kick it off?
first and foremost, bro, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, brother.
Mate, I know it's, times are, it's crazy, for trying to fit this in. And, we once again, we really do appreciate it, bro. Obviously, for all our listeners, that obviously there is a few that know who you are. Majority probably do know who you are. But just for those that don't know who you are, because who is Billy Dib?
Billy Dib is a former two-time boxing world champion. Most recently, a cancer survivor. Somebody who is a father, a husband, devoted man of faith, and a dreamer.
Dreamer.
That's what I am, man. I'm a dreamer.
I like that, man.
I love that.
I love that, bro. The
I
dreamer.
love that. Wow.
No, that's awesome, bro. Obviously, father, boxer.
Yes, brother. Yes.
Which area did you grow up in? Where did it all start for Billy Dib? Before I start you though,
Yeah.
I was actually going to bit off topic, bro. So Billy the Kid Dib is your obviously your boxing name.
That's right.
I was actually my DJ name was going to be Billy the Kid, but I didn't actually go ahead with it because I was too scared you were going to bash me if I used it. so I had to change it to Billy B.
Let's start with the name Billy the Kid. That's a good start.
Yeah, that's a good start, bro.
I'll tell you how that all came about. See, I was a young boy in the gym, and they used to call me Little Billy because there was like 3 or 4 Billies in our gym. So I was Little Billy.
Wow.
So I went through my whole match career as Little Billy. Then I turned pro, and prior to my first professional fight, I was in the city with a gentleman by the name of Sammy Marouche.
Yep.
Who was one of my sponsors. He owned a cafe called Colonnade Coffee Lounge. He had another one called Miami Ice, and at Sal Ponte, and he used to sponsor me through the coffee lounges. And he took me to the city to M8 Telecom, which was owned by a guy called Rob Mellum and Joey Mellum.
Yep.
And they had a partner named Warwick. And I was making my pro debut, and I said, look, I'd like to invite you guys to my fight, because Sam was under the impression that it might be a good idea to have them there. And said, what can we do to help? I said, I don't want anything. I don't want no sponsorship. All I want you to do is just buy some tickets to the fight. Come watch me fight, and then we'll talk. Long story short, they come to the fight. I won, devastating win as a pro debut, put on a show. And he said, come and see me on Monday. I went in to see him on Monday, and he said, how much do you love the name Little Billy? And I said, to me, it's just the name, you know what I mean? That's my boxing name. And he goes, how about we change it to Billy the Kid? And I said, all right. And he goes, if you change your name from Little Billy to Billy the Kid, we'll do all the marketing, we'll do all of your logos and everything like that, and I'll sponsor you for $250,000 over the course of the next 3 years.
Wow.
I said,
Wow.
I said, where do I sign?
And the rest is history.
And
eh?
that's how Billy the Kid was born.
Wow.
That's beautiful, bro. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's mad, man. That's
Yeah.
now you can look. It's awesome to look back on it.
But you know what that was? That was an automatic gift to be able to focus solely on boxing.
Yeah.
19 years of age, 250 grand guaranteed over the next 3 years was just like, yep, go focus on your training. Don't worry about anything else.
That's great money
Yeah.
for a 19-year-old.
Man, I'm telling
Right.
you, it wasn't like they didn't give it to me. They drip feeded it to me. They drip fed me, which was great because it taught me responsibility and it taught me how to, you know, I'm doing something right now in my life, and I'm the board member. I'm on the board. I'm on the board as a chairman of the Champions Board of the WBC, which is the World Boxing Council, which is one of the biggest boxing organizations. And it's been my job to come up with a application or a course to basically educate fighters to make sure that they never leave the sport of boxing broke. Because
That is massive.
the biggest thing in sport worldwide, forget just boxing, but worldwide, you might not know this, but close to 60 or 70% of athletes retire from the sport that they chose to do broke with no money.
That's sad, eh?
How do you go through a boxing career and earn $2, $3, $4, $5, $6 million and not think to invest in a property
Yeah, I was just gonna say
or
that.
something?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Young fighters, it's very simple. Imagine doing a Q&A. If you win a world championship and you earn $100,000, what should you do with that first 100,000? 1, buy a car. 2, buy jewelry. 3, give it to your friends. 4, invest in a property. Most of these young fighters will be like, shit, I'm buying a car. I'm buying some jewelry, you know what I mean? Oh,
Absolutely.
I got some friends that have been supporting me for years. I need to look after my friends. And that's why a lot of fighters end up with nothing, because they're not servicing their own lives. They're servicing multiple lives. And let me tell you, it's not, even if you earn $10 million from your boxing career, to service the lifestyle that you live, $10 million is not enough.
Yeah, no, it's not.
It's not.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, you got to be smart. And
course.
and it's my job now to make sure, after being appointed by the WBC, to make sure that no fighter ever suffers in retirement.
And how do you do that, Billy? How do you guide him?
I'm going to educate them through an application. So the WBC, the World Boxing Council, has told me that they're going to mandate this application that I'm building now.
Yep.
It's costing hundreds of thousands of dollars to build. They're going to mandate that every fighter who's rated within WBC has to use the app.
Has to use the app.
Has to use the app. So 740 fighters who are coming up in the game. We're not going to attack the elites. Let's be honest. You're not going to get the elites to get the app. But this is going to be an app that's going to be a minimal charge, but it's going to educate fighters.
That's awesome.
And the greatest thing is now with AI, you can have it in multiple lingos.
Yes.
So there's no excuse to say, oh, I don't understand the language. I don't read English. No, it's going to be in every language.
Wow.
That's phenomenal.
So we're going, like, me and my partner Sid David, we're going all out with this app, and I'm going to be presenting the application on the 1st of December alongside Sid at the WBC convention in Thailand. And basically from that moment, it's going to be mandated on the fighters.
Oh, straight away.
Right away.
Who owns the rights to the app build? Is it going to be your product?
So the app right now is owned by Sid and myself. Sid's like my business partner. He's like the greatest godsend. If we get into the story about how I met Sid, you guys wouldn't believe it. It's unbelievable. But he's been a godsend. God sent him into my life for a reason. And I can see the reason why he's in my life. And it's going to be mandated by the WBC. But at the moment, the app is currently owned by Sid and I. But we're going to partner with the WBC because that's the smartest move to make.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually didn't realize, because we were talking off camera, Bill, about one of your up-and-comers that you're actually managing. So for those that don't know, you're actually managing your own fighters.
That's correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
And there's a fighter by the name of Munir
Fathi.
Fathi. And it's funny, before his name got mentioned tonight and before I knew that you were actually his manager, a clip came up, a reel came up on my social media page.
Yeah.
And I seen this bloke, mate, absolutely
Animal, huh?
KO. It was put it this way, I'm a scroller.
Yeah.
It stopped me
Okay.
in my tracks and I was like, what was that?
Yeah.
The guy's an animal, yeah? But off camera we were talking and you were explaining how important that drib drab
Yes.
income is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what you don't realize, to be a boxer, you got to train full time.
Well, let me tell you something. Here's the craziest thing. A young fighter will go through his whole adolescence as a young boy. He go through his teens, and he would have invested 10 years into his boxing career as an amateur. Then he's turned pro, and he's built his record up, and then he finally gets the big fight. And the big fight is paying him, example, $1 million.
Yeah.
That's like a gambler who's gambled $10 million 10 years prior, and then he wins $1 million and he goes, I'm a winner.
That's pretty heavy.
Wow.
Do you understand what I'm saying
Yeah.
to you?
Wow.
As a young fighter,
Yeah.
you've invested all of this money into your career to build up your amateur record and then turn pro, and your boxing shoes and boxing shorts and you know what I mean, headgears and gloves, and just to get by. And then you finally get to the fight where you think, oh, yeah, I've made it. You haven't made it. That's the time where you make smart decisions and say, okay, now I've just won the world title. Now I need to capitalize. First thing I need to do is secure my future, because guess what? Tomorrow is not promised. I could be in the car on the way to the gym and bang, I have a car accident and then it's over.
Can you say what you said out there, Bill? It was so
it.
beautiful. You missed it.
I missed it.
About time.
Yeah, I said that the most valuable thing in life that none of us own. And if you ask somebody, if you just ask a stranger, yeah, say to them, what's the most valuable thing in life? He'll tell you, oh, my family? No. He'll tell you, my business? No. He won't. If you don't tell him time, he won't.
He'll never say it.
Never say it, yeah.
Absolutely.
But the most valuable commodity that you don't own, I don't own, you don't own, nobody owns is time. Time is a gift from God. It's not promised. And every night when you go to sleep, you die in your sleep. And then God gives you permission to wake up again in the morning.
That's so true.
And how much do you value the time that you have? Who do you spend it with? Do you give it to your family who deserve it most? Or do you give it to your friends who could misuse it? Or do you give it to strangers who don't deserve it? Who are you giving your time to? Let's be honest. The only people who deserve your time are your family, right? And the people that you love around you, your family, your mom, your dad, your siblings, those who value you, who you know will come to your rescue if you're in a place of distress. That's the truth.
Bill, on that's so true what you're saying, bro.
That's deep. That's deep.
We're gonna delve into your journey later on, but obviously, did you realize? We'll get into details more, but were you always thinking like this? Always, or prior to what you went through?
Look, I've always been a very God-fearing person, but let's be honest. Prior to getting cancer, I didn't really understand the value of time, and I had a great friend of mine who passed away from cancer many years ago. You guys might have heard of him. You may have not. His name was Ali Bennett.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he basically is the founder of a charity called MATW.
Is it a beautiful soul, mate? I
Okay.
see what it was doing.
And he gave up all of his wealth, all of his cars, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, all the stuff that he had, watches and
Was that the Muslims Around the World
yeah,
project?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah.
And he gave all of his money to the poor and decided to start this charity called MATW. And he said, this is crazy, right? Because in 2015, prior to him dying, he released a video called Blessed with Cancer.
I watched
I watched that
watched
too.
that.
Okay, and I watched it, And
Blessed with cancer.
blessed
Yeah.
with cancer. And I knew him vaguely at that time. After watching that, the next day I met him by chance.
By chance.
I was crying about something, and he saw me crying, and he saw me at a restaurant crying, and he came to console me. But he said something important in that. He said it took a man in a suit to tell me that I was going to die for me to wake up. That's what he said when he said blessed with cancer. That was something that he said. A man in a suit had to tell me that I was going to die for me to wake up. But God tells me that I could die at any moment.
Yeah.
But a man in a suit convinced me. So I'm in this room, and then my mum's sitting behind me, and my mum's just got through telling me about how much Allah loves me and loves her, and He would never hurt her, and I'm a good person, and you help people, and Allah doesn't, Allah sees these things, and my mum's telling me all these things, right? And I'm hearing her, and I'm believing her, and then moments later, a doctor walks into the room and it says, "Are you Mr. Dib?" And I said, "Yes, I am. Can I talk to you?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "My name is Dr. Bib Bhattacharyan. Who is that woman over there?" I said, "That's my mother." He goes, "Can I speak in front of your mom?" I said, "Anything you can say to me, you can tell my mom." Just like that. And he goes, "Well, can we sit down?" We sat down directly in front of me. There was a table in between us, and he said, "I got some pretty disturbing news." And I said, "What is it?" And he said to me, "By the looks and the reports of your bloods and everything," he goes, "You've got about 6 months to live." And in that moment, everything just completely paused. It paused. It was like a deafening moment. I just looked back at my mum, and my mum burst into tears. And then I looked at him and I said to him, "How do I turn 6 months into 60 years?" My exact words. And he goes to me, "Why?" And I said to him, "My son's 2 years and 10 months old. And in a few years, he's going to need me to walk him to school. So how do I turn 6 months into 60 years?" He goes to me, "Start the chemotherapy yesterday." Because I was against chemotherapy. I had my reasons, but I was dead set against chemotherapy. I didn't want nothing to do with it. And he goes, "If you don't do the chemo, you're going to be dying in 5 to 6 months. And he goes, "And right now, as I'm speaking to you," he goes to me, "the cancer is, you're riddled." Well, that's exactly what he said. And I said, "All right, I'm on board." And he goes, "Just like that?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's not about me anymore. It's about my son. It's about my family, my mum, my dad. I've got to try. And I'm a fighter. I'm going to die trying. You know what I mean? I'm not just going to give up." So he said, "All right, tomorrow we're going to have to transfer you." And I said, "Where are you going to transfer me?" And he goes to me, "We're going to transfer you to another hospital." And I said, No, I want to stay here." And he goes, "No, this is a private hospital and they don't do chemotherapy in this hospital. You have to go to Westmead Hospital." And then I rocked up at that hospital, man. I'm telling you, it's like I walked into hell. It's like it was an old hospital. I was in an old hospital room. The nurses were amazing, but it was like I walked into a war zone. And that's exactly what I walked into. I actually walked into a war zone. When you fight in nice venues like Madison Square Garden and MGM Grand and Caesar's Palace, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful war. You're walking into a beautiful war. But here I was walking into like hell on earth. It was like a war zone. I walked into a war zone. Into the hospital room was the war zone. You know what I mean? That's how I looked at it. And I looked at it like this is a 12-round battle with cancer, an opponent that I can't see.
Okay, so Bill, was this your mindset from the get-go?
That was right from the get-go, right from that point. When he told me that I was going to die, and then I imagined when I told you that everything paused for that moment, all I thought about was, man, my son's going to walk to school and his friends are going to ask him, "Where's your dad?" And he's going to have to tell them that my dad died when I was a kid because my dad decided he didn't want to do chemotherapy. He gave up. I said, I'm never going to give my son that excuse. So, my son started school this year. And let me tell you, I walked him to school on his first day. I was supposed to be overseas, but I cancelled the trip. That was a big paying trip and everything like that. I said, "No, I'm not going. It doesn't matter what's on offer because this is what I lived for."
That's what you asked.
That's what you asked for, yeah.
I'm going to walk my son to school. And you know what? Wallah, I'm telling you, I took my time walking him to that school. I held his hand and I walked him up the hill, and I took my time. I enjoyed every moment of it. It wasn't about taking photos or anything like that. But it was just about me being able to tell the story that, yes, I walked my son to school. And next week on Friday, I'm going to be speaking at his school about cancer. And I'm going to tell the story about how my dream was to walk my son to school, and I did that. And I wasn't going to be denied. And I'll tell you, there was days where I was in hospital and I thought, I'm not going to make it. But my brother wrote on the wall of the hospital, "Get up, you son of a bitch, because life loves you." And if you guys know anything about Rocky movies, in Rocky 5, when he gets knocked down,
"Get up, you son of a bitch."
Mickey loves you. That was the quote we wrote on the wall. And I'd look at it and I'd be like, no, I'm not leaving my son. I'm not leaving my son.
Well, Bill.
Not just my son, but my wife as well, you know what I mean? But I just thought to myself, how is my wife going to deal with this? You know what I mean? How is she going to deal with looking after our young boy, and she's going to have to do it all on her own? And I didn't want that for her, you know what I mean? He was my reason to fight, but I didn't want to leave her behind.
Bro, I'm just on that, Billy. That, mate, kudos to you, mate. To be sitting there in that room and the doctor sits you down, and the first thing to think about is what you just said. Obviously, that takes a man of strong faith and strength to do selfless.
Wow.
To put others first. You put your family first, and you fought for your family, which is phenomenal. Bro, what I want to ask you is that you said in that moment the room, everything just paused. Yeah. Correct. Prior to that, did you have any inkling that this was serious?
You know.
Did you know this was going to be that bad?
No.
You didn't?
I had no idea, but I will tell you, man, it's like, when I tell you that everything paused, you know what I imagined? The first thing that I thought to myself was, man, I'm 37 years old. What have I been doing with my life? What have I been doing? Why have I been neglecting my son and my wife? And why am I chasing this boxing? And why am I worried about boxing anymore? I've had my time in the sun. And why am I worried about all these small things that are bothering me? And you know, when it came down to it, I was thinking to myself, man, I've been letting so many people living my mind rent-free, and I'm sick today because of that. And I started saying, man, why am I allowing time and people to waste my time and allow them to live in my mind? And
is that what you brought it down to, Bill?
That's what I really brought it down to, because I can promise you now, I can tell the audience right now, I never smoked a cigarette. I never, ever took a drug. I never drank alcohol in my whole life. Nothing, no drugs, nothing. I knew nothing about it. No sporting enhancements, not one thing ever entered my system that wasn't natural. You know what I mean? And then here I am going through cancer, and I'm like, man, this can only be due to the fact that I've allowed people to live in my mind rent free. You know, listen, boxing gave me a lot. It gave me a platform, above all. It gave me a platform. Let's just say 15 years from now, my son decides to embark on a boxing career. He's going to reap the rewards of what I did.
Absolutely.
But I felt like boxing didn't give me what I wanted from it. And that burnt my soul. You know what I mean? Like there was a hatred between me and boxing up until the Ring magazines earlier this year. But I will get to that. but I'm just telling you guys. There was a part of my soul was burnt from boxing.
So was it a constant battle? Like, did you think you didn't get to the top?
No, I got to the top.
Well, that's what I'm telling. That's what as a supporter.
Yeah, I got to the cream.
Yeah, so
I got.
So what else did you want?
I ate the cake, and I got the cream on top.
Yeah, but what else were you looking for?
But there was people that robbed me along the road, along that way. 50 Cent took me to the cleaners. You know what I mean? He robbed me blind. But I made a decision when I was diagnosed with cancer that I was going to forgive him. And I was going to forgive anybody that ever wronged me in the sport of boxing.
So before you got sick?
Yeah. 50 Cent was my enemy.
Enemy.
My enemy, man.
Enemy.
So you'd wake up thinking about him, go to sleep thinking about him.
He was on my mind all the time, like how I let this guy rob me. You know what I mean? And 50 Cent.
How did he rob you?
Yeah, Bill, can you get into that?
He signed me up on an amazing deal when I was like 27 or 28 years of age. Signed me up on a 3-year deal. It was life-changing money. And he basically, in the end, like just liquidated the company and didn't pay me. So I fought fights where he would pay me and be like, I'll give you the remainder soon and whatever. And it piled up and piled up. And my lawyer told me, he said, listen, I'm going to tell you something right now. If you take this fight, you're never going to get paid properly again. I'm just letting you know. You can make the decision. I was like, Adam, we're all the way in New York right now. And how many people have come over to support? I got to take the fight. He's like, but I'm telling you, if you take the fight now, if you walk into that ring, we will never get paid correctly ever again. I'm just letting you know. And exactly what he said came to fruition.
Did he know something, or he said, was it an inkling?
No, he had an inkling, but he knew as a lawyer, he knew that if you, he just said, listen, the contract says this. If you do this, then that contract means nothing anymore. He goes, it's not as good. It means nothing. It's like, he goes, not worth the paper that it's written on.
So it becomes null and void if something happens?
Yeah. That's what happened. And so then in the end, when I finally got to the point where I needed the money from 50 Cent, and I rang him and said, look, I'm in dire straits and things aren't looking good. He said, I'm going to sort it out. And at the time he owed me 1.1 million and 50,000 US dollars, which at the time,
what's that equate to Aussie dollar?
At the time it was about 1.7, 1.8 million.
That's some coin, bro.
It was life-changing money for
That's
me.
some coin, yeah.
And I rang him and I explained to him that I'm in the hospital and I'm in dire straits, and this is in 2015. And he said, I'm going to sort it out right now. He put $50,000 in my account and then liquidated the company.
Is that how he sorted it out?
That's how he sorted it out. And then when I rang him and said, the money's short, he said, that's all you're getting. That should get you through whatever you're going through right now. And I was like, no. Anyway, long story short, I let that bother me for years, and I talked about it and I let it get to me. And then I made a decision when I was in hospital that anybody that ever wronged me, I was going to ask them to forgive me if I've wronged them, and I was going to forgive them if they wronged me.
Did you physically do that?
Yes.
So did you?
I rang somebody in 50 Cent's team and said, look, I don't want to talk to 50, but I want you to tell him something. Tell him that I forgive him. And he goes, brother, you got it wrong. And I said, what do I got wrong? And he goes, he's supposed to ask you for forgiveness. And I said, no, you got it wrong. And he says, how do I have it wrong? I said, he's been living in my mind rent free. The minute that I forgive him, I set myself free. And it's time that I set myself free. And that's what I did.
Well, Bill.
I set myself free.
How did, forgive, mate, that's massive. That's huge. How do you feel now? Forgiveness to all the listeners out there that are finding it hard to forgive these people that have done over something so small.
Man, I'll tell you, I contacted aunties that I hadn't spoken to for years, cousins who I hadn't spoken to for years. You know what I mean? Just because of small fallouts. And basically, I said, look, if I'm going to die, I want to die on a clean slate. I don't want no enemies. Even people in the boxing industry who I wasn't seeing eye to eye with, I messaged them and called them and said, look, man, let's put whatever's happening behind us and that. You know what I mean? If I'm going to check out, I want to check out on good terms. And, boxing is boxing. And, that was our rivalry. But, man, I wish you all the best. And please, if I've done anything to wrong you, forgive me. And I do the same. I don't want no enemies. And I got my brother Emad to ring a few people as well. You know what I mean? It wasn't just me. There was a few people to ring around, man. My brother rang Jeff Fennick, and I rang another guy. You know what I mean? And my brother rang Angelo DiCarlo, who was like people that I was.
So you were dead set. Preparing, that's it.
That's it. I wasn't. All I did was I made a decision to go through with the chemotherapy based on my son saying to his mates that my dad died like a warrior. My dad never gave up. That I didn't want my wife to say that my husband gave up. Because let me tell you something. Quitting is a chain reaction. Whether you believe it or not, this is really a chain reaction. If you quit, if you're a husband and you've got a wife and you quit, you then give permission to your wife to quit, who then gives permission to your children to quit. Because let's be honest, the mother is the really the one that the kids look up to. They go to mum for everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not many kids come to dad, you know what I mean? They rely on their mother.
Nurturing aspect.
Yeah, that's a nurturing aspect. So when you quit, you give permission to everybody around you to quit. And I'm not a quitter. So if I was going to die, I was going to die on my shield. I wanted my son to know that I never quit. And so I used to do videos, I used to do recordings when I was in the worst of situations in the hospital. And I would tell my son, Dad, this is exactly what I'm going through right now, and I want you to know that I never quit. If I don't wake up tomorrow, I want you to know that I tried everything to be this. And I want you to be this when you get older, and I want you to do this, and I want you to know that your dad was a warrior, and you're going to be a warrior just like me. I mean, I was trying to leave behind a message for him. I wasn't going to let the people who supported me for all of these years, you know, like the fans and all that, see me quit just like that. That's why I made my journey public, because I wanted to inspire people to see that no matter what you're going through in your life, with determination, with hunger, and with the will to win, anything is possible.
Bill, bro.
With can you just repeat that again?
Yeah.
So with determination and with hunger.
With determination, with hunger, and with the will to win, anything is possible.
It's a new quote we're gonna go by, I think, bro.
Yeah. I got a two-part question.
Yep.
Billy the Kid's a fighter. He's a warrior. We know him as a two-time world champion, but really you're a 3-time world champion, beating cancer. And you've got this, you were taking on this, whether you want to call it a character or you wanted to show your son, look, don't quit, son, and you were fighting it. You know, get up, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You told me outside when we asked you, what's off limits? What can I ask? What can I? And you said, bro, ask whatever you want. I'm an open book. I'm going to put you to the test now.
Yeah.
Was there a moment when that camera got turned off and you weren't recording the message to your son where you actually broke? And as a devout Muslim, a proud Australian Lebanese Muslim, what did your faith do for you during this time?
When I would get the phone, I tell you, I would be at the most vulnerable points. I'd be at breaking point. I rang my wife one evening and said, I need to talk to you and Laith for a minute. And she said, why? And I said, I don't think I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I said, I'm bad. But obviously in the state that I was in, I was very thin. I had no voice. And she said to me, right now we're busy. And it was about 8 o'clock at night. I said, no. I just need you guys for 5 minutes. She goes, no. We'll talk to you at Fajr time. And I said, no.
Sorry, what's that? What's Fajr time?
Fajr time is the prayer time in the morning, 5 in the morning.
Wow.
I said, no, Berry. I got to just 2 minutes. Dude.
What a soldier, bro.
She hung up on me.
Wow.
Well, bro.
Bro, stop. So
she hung the phone up on me, and I said, and then I tried to ring her back, and she declined, and she sent me a message saying, sorry, we're with people now, we can't talk. But really what she was doing was not giving me permission to give up.
And did you know that? Did you, when she was doing, did you get the hint?
Yeah, I
you got the hint?
I was angry.
Yeah.
But hang on a second. What risk was she running, Bill? Say, like,
God forbid.
God forbid that was the end.
She didn't know it. She didn't believe it. She didn't. Listen, can I tell you? Because I spoke to the nurse that day, and the nurse came into the room, and I said to her, I can't believe I gave you permission to kill me. And she said, we're not trying to kill you, darling. I said, yes, you are. You put this chemical in my body, and I'm dying. I'm dying slowly. I can't eat. I can't drink. And I was in a mess, you know what I mean? And she consoled me and told me some stories about my son and all these things, but it wasn't enough. I was checked out, you know what I mean? And I'd done it, and all I needed for her was to do is allow me to talk to them for that 5 minutes, and there's a chance, Allahu Alam, I may have not have woken up that morning. Because when I woke up in the morning, I said,
Yeah, wow.
I said, oh my God.
Were you in that much pain, Bill?
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, I was in that much pain.
What's it feel like, bro?
Man, I'm telling you, listen, I have never experienced pain like chemotherapy in my whole life. I've never, ever in my life experienced that kind of pain. I'm like, man, what the hell is this?
This is a 2-time world champion we're talking to, telling us
listen,
that.
I've been punched in the face by the who's who of boxers. No one hurt me like chemotherapy. That's the most... Listen, I tell people all the time, that was my 50th opponent, right? That was my 40... At the time, that was my 49th opponent. Because I ended up having a fight after I beat cancer, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But he was my 49th opponent, and that was the opponent that I couldn't see. And he had 100% speed, 100% agility, 100% strength. He was 100% in everything. But my mind would not allow me to give up on Latham Berry. It just wouldn't let me give up. It wasn't my mum and dad that I was worried about. Because, you know, that's part of life. Sometimes you lose your kids, and you know what I mean, and it's hard to accept. But for me, I was like, man, this young kid, even though my brothers had assured me that no matter what had happened, that he would have the best life, I was telling my brother, Emad, but I don't want to die, man. I want to be there for the kid. You know, I want to take him to school. I want to do this. And he told me, you are. He goes, but if you don't, I promise you, I'm gonna do all that for you. I'm not gonna let you down. And I said, then obviously, that gave me a lot of comfort in ways, knowing that my son was going to be okay, you know what I mean, and that Barry would be looked after. And that my brothers assured me, I said, listen, your wife will never work a day in her life. Leif will never pay for a day of school in his life. He'll never need anything and go without. He said, we're going to give him everything that he needs. I promise you, he's my son. But my brother said to me, I can assure you, you ain't going to die. I know you got that warrior spirit. You're not going to die.
Bill, bro, that's phenomenal, bro. But what's it like having those tough conversations, especially with your wife, bro?
Well, bro, the first conversation I had was my brother Ahmad, who was basically like my brother Ahmad. He's been my lifeline for my whole life since I was a kid. He nurtured me, he managed me, he made mistakes. We got angry, we forgave each other. It's, you know what I mean? He got married. He's got busy with his wife. He had children. And these things all, like, in ways affected my relationship with him, you know what I mean? Because
life catches up on you.
Yeah. He started to get older and he needed to start his own life. And it wasn't just about nurturing this young kid anymore. But when I was diagnosed, he was overseas. And I rang him and I said, I need you, man. And he said, I'm on the first plane coming back. And he was in Turkey at the time. And when he turned up at the hospital, I was in a complete mess. Not as in like, I was in a mess, sick.
Is this when you first found out, when you rang him?
Yeah, and first thing I said to him, I said, Mads, I don't want to die, man. He said, you're not going to die. You're not going to die. And then I burst into tears. He said, listen, just hold on until I get there. And then the first thing, when he arrived, I remember like it was yesterday, you know, the room was full and he asked everyone to leave the room. And he basically said to me, he goes, tell me what you need. What do you need? What do you need? Like, what do you physically need now? And what do you need me to do? And I told him, I said, I need you to put everything in place to make sure that life's going to be all right. Him and Barry, I don't want him to worry about nothing. And he assured me that nothing is going to happen, but I promise you, if anything does, I've got him covered. And that was like, he gave me the energy to fight. And then my brother Muhammad, I remember being like, they would give me time where I could take a few days here and there to try to regather myself. And so my wife, she took me away with my cousins, and I sort of felt like it was me saying goodbye to everyone, because, you know, the family the family would turn up, but they would be very careful and mindful not to come too close, and no hugging and all that sort of stuff. But for me, even though I was fighting, I felt like this was me saying goodbye to everyone. And I remember waking up really early in one morning. It was like 6 a.m, and I went outside. We were on the beach, and we're in a holiday home. And I went outside and I sat on the beach and I rang my brother, because my brother works in the markets, and it was early. And we were talking and stuff. And he said, "Listen, I want you to know something. Don't just rely on Ahmad." He goes, "I'm your brother too. You know what I mean? Whatever you need, I'm there. You know what I mean? And I want you to know that Leif's gonna be our son, and we're going to look after him." He goes, "But you're going to be fine." You know what I mean? Like, my brothers always kept on telling me, you're going to be fine. Even though things got bad, and they got really bad at times, they always told me, you're going to get through. You're a fighter, man. Don't give up. Keep pushing. And that's what I just kept on pushing. No matter what I went through, I just kept on trying to find a way out from whatever it is that I was going through.
You mentioned, Billy, that you had days where you thought you weren't going to wake up the next day.
Yeah.
what does it feel like as a man to even get that thought? Like, can you explain? Can you elaborate on it? Like, what are you feeling at that moment?
I'll tell you guys.
Like,
Sid David is somebody who's very, very dear to me. Okay, I'm a Muslim. Sid's a Christian, but we're like brothers. There's nothing in between us.
as it should be, brother.
That's how we are. We're brothers. And when I rang Sid, because I was diagnosed with colon cancer, they removed the cancer. They said you're cancer free, go home after 7 days. 7 days later, I was back in hospital fighting for my life. So it wasn't like, it was.
What a roller coaster.
Hang on a sec. So
Yeah.
when the doctor spoke to you and when your mum was in the room,
That was the second time round.
was that after the colon got taken out?
Yeah. So I'd had an operation where they took a 9 centimeter tumor out from my stomach.
And they said it was benign? Or
No, they removed it and said, that's it. We should do some chemotherapy to clean things up, but you're cancer free. I said, no, I'm not doing no chemotherapy. Send me home. I'm going home. You know what I mean? I'm not doing none of that chemo. I don't need it. You're telling me I'm cancer free. I'm going home. But Sid came to visit me when I was diagnosed with the colon cancer. We had a conversation and all that stuff, and we knew that everything was going to be okay. But then when I went back to hospital, I messaged him and said, Sid, I only got some really bad news, man. I've been told that I'm toast in 6 months. And he responded back by saying to me, that's a very good story you're telling me right now, because he's a life coach. And if we get into it, I'll tell you guys how he's changed my life. He's a life coach, and he says to me, he goes, that's a very good story you're telling me. He goes, and it's a good narrative that they're painting. He goes, but what are you telling yourself? What's the story you're telling yourself? And he goes, and do yourself a favor while you're at it. Surrender yourself to God. And when I put the phone down and I thought to myself, surrender yourself to God. The only word that came into my mind was surrender, and surrender means to give up. So I'm like, Sid just told me to give up, but I'm a fighter. I don't give up. But then when I read back on the message, I realized that he's telling me that surrender yourself to the higher power. And then I told people the 4 things that got me through was faith, family, friendship, and love. And so the driving force was faith, because I made a decision to surrender. And so you know what I said to God? I put my hands up. I said, Ya Rab, I know you can hear me. And I know you know what I'm going through right now. And I'm asking you, if you've opened up a place in heaven for me, take me now. But if you haven't, I'd like some more time with my family. And I'd like the chance to rectify my life, if you would give me that. And once I did that, I was at ease with anything. Once I surrendered to the thought of dying, it didn't matter to me anymore. I just thought it was, you know what? I started thinking about, we're all going to die anyway. And somebody said to me, how much do you love your son? I said, man, words can't explain it. What if I told you that God loves your son 10 times more than you do? Maybe 10 million times more than you do. We're all children of God, right?
Yeah.
God is the one who breathed life into us. He gave us life. So we're a blessing from Allah to our parents. So he was right. God was going to love my son and look after my son better than I ever was. So I made a decision that whether I died or whether I'd live, it was okay.
Let's talk about. I need to fast forward.
Yeah.
I'll end up a fucking mess. Bro.
Yeah, bro. Fuck, that's heavy, bro.
This is actually deeper than what I thought. Obviously, we always have some sort of anticipation before we sit down, Bill, because we know a bit of what's going on, obviously, and we know what to prepare ourselves for. But that was something. Wow. Fast forward now. You win your 49th fight. Talk about that day when you got told you're a fucking winner.
Well, I remember waking up on the morning of going to get that scan done. And so what happened was I I woke up early in the morning, and I remember I prayed, and I said to God, God, if you could spare me, it would mean a lot. If you could spare me, I wouldn't mind the opportunity to be there with my wife and my son. I'd love that, you know. That became so important, you know what I mean? Just like I tried to soak in every moment with them, you know. And so when I went to get the scan, I built a relationship with the gentleman who had scanned me a few times. So when I went into the machine to get a scan, I had this strange dream, man. Very, very strange dream. I fell asleep in my dream.
In the scan?
In the scan. Because it's like a 1 hour scan. But you could imagine I was a cancer patient. I was really tired.
No energy.
No energy. Never really got a chance to rest. So, you know, I'm laying down in this thing. It was semi-comfortable, and I just dozed off. And I woke up in that dream in the washing room where they wash you when you die.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God.
And I woke up, and my brother Jihad was there, Ahmad was there, Muhammad, Nasir, my brother Yui, and my brother-in-law Mustafa, and my uncle Ange, who's my uncle via default because my wife's brother Muhammad is married to a girl called Lee, whose father's name is Angela the Greek, and he's become like a really big part of my life. And he's in the washing room, and they're washing me, and I'm telling them how to wash me to prepare me for my burial. So I'm awake while they're washing me, but I'm dead, but I'm awake. I'm still walking them through.
You're having an out of body experience in your dream.
Yeah. And I'm telling them how to wash me and then how to wrap me and all that stuff so they can prepare me for my burial. And then just as they're gonna bury me, I wake up. I woke up, and I'm coming out of the machine, and I'm thinking to myself,
not your time.
Man, I'm not dead. And then I rang up, my phone rang, and it was my Uncle Ange. I said, Uncle Ange, I just had this strange dream. I don't think I'm gonna die. I said to him, I think God gave me a sign that I'm gonna live. I think I'm cancer free, man.
This is before you got the result.
Before I got the result. And so then I asked the doctor, I said, how did it look? And he goes, it's good. And he didn't say, I can't tell you. He goes, but things are looking good. So what does that mean? He goes, look, I'm not allowed to tell you because I could lose my job.
The radiologist?
Yeah. No, he's something else. They do the can. And so he said, Dr. Bhattacharyan will ring you later to give you the results. And but I had an indication from him. The indication from him was that I think I'm going to be okay. And after having that dream, I went outside, and my wife was there, and her best friend Lena was there with them, and my son Laith. And I remember walking out from the room, and I looked at my wife, and I remember just doing this to her, like giving her a thumbs up. And I was like, I think I'm cancer free. And she just like sort of got emotional, and we walked out, but we didn't know. It was just the possibility, you know what I mean? And so I went home, and when I got home, I rang Dr. B and I said, Dr. B, and like, do you know what's going on? And he goes to me, oh, look, I'm really busy at the moment. I'm in theatre, and like, I might have to call you back later this evening, you know? And I was like, oh, this evening? I said, Dr. B, I just need to tell you something. I haven't slept a minute. I've been waiting for this news. Please, if you could do something, I need to know. I'm on edge. I want to know if I'm going to live or die, please. Because if I'm not, I had made a decision, and I told my wife that if I wasn't cancer free today, I was not doing any more chemotherapy. That was it. I'd reached the finish line of chemotherapy, and I wasn't doing it. I said, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die in the house with my son and my wife and with my family, and that's the end of it. I don't want to hear about, I did what I had to do. I tried, it didn't work, and that's the end. Don't tell me about, let's try this remedy and let's go to Germany. I don't want to hear none of that. Stop in your tracks. Khalas. I can't do it anymore, you know what I mean?
Far out, Bill.
And then I had made that point to my wife that, please, I can't do it anymore. He rang me back. He said, oh, Billy, like I said to you, I'm in theatre, I'm a bit busy, but I got some good news for you. So what is it? It says, congratulations, you're cancer free. I stood there. I was downstairs. My wife was upstairs. No one was with me, so I kept it cool. And I walked up the stairs and I said to my wife, I said, I got to tell you something. She said, what? I said, Dr. B just called me. She goes, what? I said, I'm cancer free. And she burst into tears. And then my son, who at the time is like 3.5 years old, is jumping up and down. And he knows exactly what's going on, that his dad's cancer free. And so then my wife's like, how are we going to announce this to the world? Because the world was on this journey with me. It just wasn't me. It was the
I was one of them, bro.
It was the world that was on that journey, I'm telling you. And so I thought the first thing I got to do is ring my mom and dad. So I did that, rang my mom and dad. My dad fell apart. My mom fell apart. Then I rang my brother Joe, and Joe's falling apart, my brothers. And then my wife said, this is the only way that we're going to do it. We're going to get a board. We're going to write something on the board that says that you're cancer free, and we're going to let Laith hold the sign. And that was all we did. We'd say, hey guys, my dad's cancer free. It's like just very simple. And it went viral. And I'm telling you, man, I must have received about 100,000 messages in the next couple of days after that. It was just a very relieving moment. It was relief. It was like, you know what? It's over. That's it. I don't have to worry about anything anymore. Didn't have to take any more medication. All I had to do was do follow-ups and checkups and stuff like that. And there's been a few scares in between, but I've been good ever since, man. And my whole life has changed. Like my life has changed. The way I look at life, the way I approach life, the way I deal with people, the way I approach people, the way I deal with my son, the way I talk to my wife, the way I handle everything like that. Everything has changed for the better. And sometimes people got to go through something like that to be able to change their life.
That's what I was going to ask.
They do say you got to hit rock bottom, and man, let me tell you, man, a lot of people hit rock bottom, or they think they hit rock bottom, but until you hear a story like this is massive.
But when you hit rock bottom, when you believe you've hit rock bottom, there's only one thing:
get up.
The way up.
Absolutely.
That's the best part about it. Yeah. There's only one way up,
listen,
bro.
See, I've met a lot of people who are wealthy, and then I've met a lot of people who were wealthy and lost everything. But I don't worry about the person who lost it. Do you know why? Because they know how to get it back. Once you've been up, you know how to get there. There's a blueprint. There's always a way back up. It's just whether you're willing to work hard, because, see, nothing in life comes easy. And any vision that you have that's worth believing in starts with you. So if you've got a strong vision and you believe in that vision, that, yep, I'm a 12-year-old, I walk into a gym, I like what I see, one day I'm going to become a world champion. What I do between that vision and that point of success is called consistency. It's called turning up every single day and working hard every single day and striving every single day, because nothing comes easy. Nothing worth having comes easy. Everything that you want in your life, if you grind for it and you work for it, you will appreciate it. When I was a young kid, I wanted a bike. The bike was worth $600. My father had 6 boys and 1 girl. That's 7 children in the house. If every child at that time when I wanted that bike was worth $600, how was my father going to be able to buy every kid a $600 bike? So my dad said, listen, here's what you're going to do. You're going to work for that bike. And when you come up with $300, I'm going to put the other $300 and get you that bike. That's what my dad said to me. I promise you, I'm going to get you that bike. And I worked for it, and guess what happened? I had that bike for 20 years. You know why? Because I earned it. It wasn't given to me. I looked after it. I nurtured it. I never left it in the rain.
Looked after it. If
It's
your Ferrari.
You understand?
Yeah, it's the...
I get it with... It's funny. It's a silly comparison, but it's sort of the same. I had this discussion today with my partner.
Yeah.
Right? tools just keep going missing.
Yeah.
Whether it's a hammer, whether it's, measuring tape.
Yeah.
Just like we're in May? I've bought about 7 measuring tapes, and it's always the boys losing them. And I actually said it to my partner today. I go, mate, the boys don't respect the equipment. Why? Because they haven't bought it.
Yeah, that's right.
Those tools have been given to them through us, through our hard work and our money.
That's right.
To them, it's just a measuring tape. They'll forget it on site. They'll drive off. As they get to the set of lights, they can still turn back.
Like, fuck it.
Fuck
Nah,
it.
nah,
I'll
nah,
get
nah.
it tomorrow.
Yeah, but then somebody else nicks it.
Gone.
My son says to my wife when he breaks one of his toys, "Don't worry, Dad will buy me another one." No joke. But you know what I told him? I said, "No, I won't."
Yeah.
You know what I told my son? I said, "Dad, guess what? I don't have any money."
You dropped that on him.
I tell him all the time. I said, "Dad, I don't have money. I'm broke."
I don't say that to him.
No, I tell him all the time. I said, "No, even though I do," I said, "Dad, I don't have money. I'm broke. They're not putting money in my account. We can't buy toys." Oh no.
I get scared saying that because I don't want this kid walking around saying,
Yeah.
"My dad's got no money."
Yeah, but they do that.
That's what I'm worried,
but
you know what I mean?
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the kid goes to a private school. The kid gets everything he needs. You know what I mean? There's no need, like, I gotta credit my wife for that. You know what I mean? Because my wife's like, if you keep giving him, this kid's gonna take advantage, man. I'm telling you, this kid's broken that many toys, and he's got an obsession with these squishy toys. So we buy them for him, but then he stabs them.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they leak.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's toxic.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So now it's like since a couple of months ago, my wife confiscated them, and she's made him earn them to get them back, and now he looks after them like they're his life and his soul.
Absolutely.
Well,
I've actually, Bill, so on YouTube, people might want to call docs on me, couldn't give a fuck. I'll sit my daughter, I'll tell her, right, you love YouTube, you're always on YouTube.
Yeah.
Come sit down, I'm going to show you YouTube. This was at the age of 5 years old. She's 7 now.
Yeah.
I go and I just type in starving African children.
Yeah.
And I made her sit. No, I
I'm
made her.
laughing because I've done it before.
Yeah, I made her sit for about half an hour, and I made her watch Starving Kids. And I said, Dada, you tell me, where would you rather be? Is that not haram?
Yeah.
Do you feel upset that this is happening to these kids? Look what you've got. Look what they have. Would they be doing what you're doing? So at the age of 5 years old, Bill, I taught her the word grateful.
Yeah.
So now when I say no to her, it's not, no, you can't have that. I've put a nice touch to it. Dad, no. What are you? She's like, I'm grateful, Dad. So we walk away, her not getting what she wants,
Yeah.
but her knowing it's not a loss for her. Because kids, when you say no, they've lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've taught her you're still winning.
Yes.
And that's what the word grateful means.
Man, that's the greatest advice that you could give your kid. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, I go to a lot of schools and I talk to a lot of kids at schools and I do a lot of educational things and I tell kids all the time, man, the fact that you're at school is a blessing.
Absolutely.
Because young kids who are living abroad would do anything to be in your shoes right now. Yet here you are taking it for granted. The greatest thing in life is knowledge. Because I'll tell you why. Knowledge is power and power is success. And what I mean by that, when you attain the knowledge, you put yourself in a power position to be able to do whatever it is that you want to do in your life. But you can only do that through attaining the knowledge. So I tell young kids all the time, say, listen, there's kids who are in Palestine who will die to be in your position right now. They will die. They will give up their whole life and everything around them just to come and take your spot. And here you are taking it for granted and treating your teachers like garbage. And do you know that the woman that's standing directly in front of you or the teacher that's standing directly in front of you attain what it is that you need in your future? Yet you look at it and take it for granted.
The golden ticket.
Absolutely.
We've got the golden ticket. Bill.
Just on that, sorry to cut you off, but Bill's brought it up, and we've actually never mentioned it, but I just want everyone to know that the BillyJoe podcast does stand with Palestine, and we are absolutely against the genocide that's happening at the moment. We don't take political stances, Bill.
Yeah, nah.
We've never actually spoken anything political.
This has nothing to
But
do
this,
with political,
yeah,
man.
this is real, yeah.
This is humanity.
Yeah.
Humanity. This is young kids, man. Listen, sometimes you see some disturbing things online, right? But I always imagine that being my son, man. I can't help it. Even if I see something disturbing, like I saw something about somebody getting beat up at a petrol station, all I can imagine that person getting beat up was my son. Do you know, I want you to think about it like this for a minute, yeah? You know, sometimes you see people get hurt, people lose their lives over stupid things. All you need to do in that moment is just pause for a second and imagine that could be your child in that situation. That person that's getting punched is your child. That person that's getting pushed around, that person that's just been run over, that's your child. Just imagine that for 1 minute. How could you sleep at night?
I live by that mantra, Billy.
Man,
I do.
I'm telling you, look, for me, you know, when I was a kid, I wasn't, like my dad was talking to my uncle the other day and he goes, Bilal wasn't one of those kids that gave me issues. Do you know why? Maybe I was destined for that, because I could tell you when I was a young kid, like 10, 11, 12, I was afrit. I was a maniac. I used to jump off trees. But once I found boxing, it gave me direction. It gave me purpose. I had a vision. That vision turned into a lot of consistency because I wanted to be the best. And when I arrived at that moment, when I became world champion, that was my moment of success. But like you see all these things going around, like I just feel like kids just need to have a purpose. And the parents, there's so many parents out there who are not supportive of their kids. I'm going to say it, and this is not a shot against Arab people, but a lot of Arab parents will tell their child, no, man, go get a job, go get a trade. But their son's a talented soccer player.
Yeah.
He's a talented footballer. He's a talented cricketer. He's a talented whatever, you know what I mean? A boxer, whatever. How are you going to make it? Go get a job, man.
How did you go about that, Bill? How did, like, being Lebanese and all that, your old man, being traditional, how did you go about that, trying to convince him?
My childhood hero was Prince Nassim Hamed, who was an Arab.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I told my dad, I said, Dad,
it was flamboyant.
one day I'm going to be like Prince Nassim. And he goes, I don't know. And I said, Dad, I'm going to be like Prince Nassim one day. I went on to win the same world titles that Prince Nassim won in the same weight division.
Wow.
How did your dad feel about
Talk about having a clear vision.
You knew what you wanted, bro.
I knew exactly what I wanted.
So,
but the thing is, man, is like my dad, he even though he was the father figure, my brother Jihad was like the guy who sort of made a lot of the educational decisions.
for good reason, though.
Yeah, for good reason.
He's in politics, yeah. Is Jihad in politics?
So,
right.
you know, the funny, sorry to cut you off. So, I went to Holy Spirit College in Lakemba.
Yeah.
Right? And so, when I was going through high school,
Yeah.
The Honourable Jihad Dib was the principal at Punch Bowl.
That's right.
Was he?
Bro,
Yeah.
Punch Bowl boys, right? He was a principal. But what? Our teachers, you're talking a Catholic school, our teachers were talking about him.
Yeah, he changed the school around, man.
He was making waves, Bill. Making waves, right? So we grew up thinking, like, who's this guy? You know, where is he? So we actually went, Bill, true story.
Yeah.
We caught a train from Lakemba station to Punch Bowl station. We had some mates at Punch Bowl boys. We met at Awefa, the chicken shop, right around the corner. We had a feed. And then they walked us over to meet Principal Jihad.
Yeah.
Right? And as a supporter, and I told you, I'm actually older than him.
Yeah.
But I'm fanboying because I was a massive supporter of your career, right?
Thank you.
Grew up thinking Jihad, what a machine. Following Billy the Kid, had no idea they were brothers.
No way.
No idea. Which brings me, and I know I've cut you off, and we'll get back to what we were saying.
Yeah.
What did your mum put in the kibinaya?
I don't know, brother.
Because, no, I'm being honest. All his brothers, bro.
Alhamdulillah.
So
Thank God.
Jihad, the Honourable Jihad Dib is in. So moved on from being a principal to now in Parliament. Very well respected. But Bill, not only respected from his own party, from both sides.
Yeah, that's true.
The opposition actually really respect him.
That doesn't happen every day.
No. Then you're talking Billy the Kid. Then you're talking, and forgive me, I don't know which brothers are which. There's one entrepreneur. Then there's two that are partners that are the Fruit Kings.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, sorry, bro, is that a coincidence?
Nah, listen, my father's dream was to have children who could lift his head. That he could
Beautiful also film.
Yeah, that he could walk down the street and say, that's Haj Ali Dib's son. Or that's Haj Ali Dib's daughter. You know what I mean? He never wanted us to be children that people like frowned upon or whatever. So he told me, he said, my wealth in my life is not money. My wealth is my children. That's my wealth. That's my ticket to heaven.
Wow.
My children. And so going back to my brother Jihad, I remember being, just shy of my 19th birthday. I finished school. I got to year 10 and then I went into school in Canberra for the HSC, which you don't have to do HSC. You're 11 and 12, there's no HSC in Canberra. I did my schooling via basically being away. And when I wrapped that all up, I come to my brother.
From what year, Bill?
This is 2004.
So what year in school? So when did you leave like your
I finished school in year 10 and I went to Canberra.
Which school in Sydney?
I went to Ingadine Public School, Heathcote High School, and then I finished my last year at Condell Park.
Okay.
I did 1 year at Condell Park. But then I went to Canberra and I was doing the remainder of my schooling in Canberra via correspondence. Nevertheless, I decided that I'm going to embark on a professional boxing career. And I come to my brother Jihad and he says, very good. What's your fallback? And I said, what fallback?
I'm going to be champion.
He goes, what if boxing doesn't work out? I said, it's going to work out. And he goes, what if you have a car accident? I said, oh my God.
Here we go.
With the negativity. Look at the negativity. I said, you just put the evil eye on me, bro. I said, stop. He said, no, I'm being a realist right now. He goes, let's just say you have a car accident and you can never box again. What do you do with your life? He goes, have a think about that and go off and do something. Go off and work out what you're going to do as a fallback. So I remember ringing my friend Abdul Wade and I said, Abdul, what are you going to do, man? What are you doing? What's the plans? And he goes, bro, I'm going to do real estate. And I love my friend Abdul at the time. I said, Abdul, you know what? I might join you, man. I said, how many days is the course? He goes, yeah, you got to do it. It's like 3 days a week. It's at Bankstown TAFE. And then I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to join you. So I went to Bankstown. I went back home. I said to my brother, I said, I've decided what I want to do. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to become a real estate agent. And he goes, what do you know about real estate? I said, well, I don't know much about it, but I'm going to learn. And I said, and I'm a good talker, so I think I'll do okay. He goes, I think you're onto something. Good luck with it. Went and got a certificate in real estate.
So you finished it?
Parked it in the drawer.
Yeah.
And never looked back. Told my brother Joe that was the end of it. You know what I mean? I embarked on my boxing career. I chased my career. I set goals. I won world championships. I became the only Lebanese fighter in Australian boxing history to win a world title.
We're so proud of you, Bill. Yeah. And again, and Bill the second.
Yeah.
There's 3 Bills in the room. I can't believe it.
I know we've got 1 Bill behind the camera, 2 in front.
1 just left.
As a Lebanese Christian, we are so proud of our Lebanese Muslim brother.
Thank you, man.
We and a lot of my mates growing up, bro, we followed you and we loved you. And to anyone out there, and I know there's this stigma about Lebanese families, Lebanese boys, Lebos, Wogs. And let's not shy away from the fact of the hit that the Islamic religion has copped.
Yeah.
Young Lebanese Muslim boys, how they are targeted and they're perceived as something that we're really not, right? This is a true testament from you, your oldest brother, to the youngest brother. This is what our values are about. This is what being Lebanese is about. Whether you're Muslim or Christian, we've got the same values, the same upbringing, the same morals. This is what being Lebanese is. Is that right, Bill?
Every time I was in the public eye, it wasn't about me. I was a representation of all of us. So I carried myself in a manner. I carried myself in a manner.
I love that.
That was going to make each and every one of us proud. You were never going to catch me on the corner taking a pee. You were never going to catch me doing any sort of business like that, because I was a representation of us. And everything that I do in my life, I carry myself in a way that I'm a representation and I'm a responsibility. I have a responsibility to hold our community in high.
Bro,
That's awesome, bro. I wish everyone thought like that, Bill. Bro, you take me as a guy from very humble beginnings. Very, very humble beginnings with your family and everything. Failure was never an option for you, was it? Did that did the humble beginnings motivate you to not obviously to succeed? And
when I was young,
we're talking boxing.
I'll tell you. But when I was young, I was lucky enough to be on the Australian Institute of Sport, to live at the Australian Institute of Sport, and I used to represent Australia all over the world. The first country that I ever went abroad to was at the age of 14, and that was to Hungary. And I always knew that I was going to become a world champion. I always believed in myself. Whether you believed in me or not, it didn't matter. It was what I believed. The belief starts with you. If you don't, if I don't believe in me, but you believe in me, then I'll never succeed. And it goes vice versa. But I believed in me, so it didn't matter what happened. I always believed that I was going to be a world champion. I always knew that I was destined to become a world champion. So I never imagined myself to be a poor kid. Even though we didn't have everything that we wanted, we had everything we needed. My dad made sure that we had clothes on our back. My dad made sure that, we had shoes, we had whatever we needed. We never went without, you know what I mean? We never went hungry or anything like that. But we didn't get the stuff that all the other kids get, like the PlayStations and all that stuff. And
the extras.
All the extras, right? But I imagined myself to be rich. And you know how I did that? When I used to travel overseas, like to Cuba, to Hungary, to all these countries, Tahiti, I would see all these poor people. So you know what I would do? I had this thing which was like, this was the thing that I do when I arrive in a country. I would get changed to running gear. I put shoes on, I put a sweat tracksuit on, and I'd go for a run. One straight line down and one straight line back. I'd run down that way and I'd come back the other side. I just wanted to see what my surroundings were. Who were these people that were living in poverty? And so when I'd come back to Australia and I'd be running in these beautiful streets, that's what I'd do. I'd imagine myself in a place of poverty and say that I'm not wealthy. My dad has money, I don't have money. My mum has money, I don't have money. I'm broke. I got to work hard if I want anything in my life. So when I'd run in these nice streets of Sydney, I'd turn them into the streets of Cuba or the streets of Thailand, stinky alleyways and all this stuff, because I imagine myself, because the best champion come from the grimiest hoods. The greatest champions come from the grimiest hoods.
Which takes us back to what we were talking about before. Like when you're at that level or at the bottom, bro, they only know to succeed, and the only way they know is up. So I feel like a lot of people like that, especially in rugby league, boxing, a lot of sports, bro. Like it's their ticket out. But I'm not saying it was your ticket out, because, like you said,
it was my ticket though. That was what gave me the platform. See, listen, let's just say boxing didn't give me everything that I wanted, but boxing gave me the platform to be who I am today. It gave me this amazing platform. And let me tell you, I want to get into the last fight that I had, the last boxing
Yeah, so
fight.
I was actually, we're ready for that one.
Yeah. So I want to tell you guys about that. So that all started out as a joke. I was in Kazakhstan. I had been invited by the WBC. Mauricio Suleiman, who is the boss of the WBC, contacted me when I was diagnosed with cancer. Billy, what's going on? I said, Mauricio, things aren't looking good. No problem. We will see you next year at the convention. I said, I don't know about that.
Wow.
So we'll see you next year at the convention. So then he sends me a video of him filming the current convention that he's at. All of these great champions, Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, everyone, Julio Cesar Chavez, Roberto Duran, all these great champions. Billy, we are here at the convention and we are all cheering for you. You're going to beat cancer. We're going to see you next year at the next convention. And then everybody in the auditorium stood up and started clapping.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Right? Not joking, right?
That's boxing royalty, yeah?
That's boxing royalty.
Boxing royalty.
So then I beat cancer, and the following year, the convention's coming up. I get a call from Mauricio Suleiman. Billy, how are you? Good, man. Good, Mauricio. How you doing? How you feeling? I said, good. Can you travel? I said, yes. Okay, we see you at convention. I said, what do you mean? You remember I told you a convention? I said, yes. And he goes, okay, get ready.
You didn't forget.
Send me passport. Who you going to bring? I said, I'm going to bring my Uncle Sid. I'm going to bring Sid. I'll call him Uncle Sid.
Your good friend.
My partner.
Yeah.
My Uncle Sid is one of the greatest people in my life. I ring Sid. I said, Sid, we're going to Kazakhstan. He goes, all right, good, we're going to Kazakhstan.
Whatever you say, bro.
It's a bit out of there.
Mauricio Suleiman books his first business class flights.
Wow.
Sydney to Kazakhstan. We get there. We get the royal treatment, bro. We called it we called it the trip that didn't stop giving. This trip did not stop giving. On the second day of the trip, and mind you, listen, Mike Tyson's there, Evander Holyfield's there, Cesar Chavez, Duran, all of the greatest champions of all times. And I am being awarded, which I had no idea about. I'm just about to be awarded a world title belt by the WBC. And I wrote a speech because I knew that I was going to be awarded something, but I wasn't sure what I was being awarded. Anyway, I got up on the stage and I had been awarded the WBC Champion of Hope. And this was a championship that's recognized as a champion of life, a champion of life, a champion of hope. And I had written this amazing speech, and I read the speech fluently, clearly, and all of these great champions got up and clapped for me and applauded me. And next thing you know, I go back to my room, gifts are getting sent to my room. Chavez sends me a nice hat, a Chavez hat, you know. It's like I'm telling you, it was incredible, right?
Did Sid get hooked up along the way? Or
Hey, listen, everything that I got, I made sure Sid got as well. They gave me a WBC World Title belt.
Yeah.
It was, tell you, man, it was the most incredible thing. Anyway, we were at this dinner, and Mike Tyson and everyone was at this dinner, and a good friend of mine who was with Golden Boy Promotions when I was with Golden Boy Promotions years ago, he said, Billy, could you imagine how amazing it would be if you had a comeback fight? And I said, you wouldn't believe that's all I've been thinking about.
No. Is it actually what you'd been thinking about?
I'd been thinking about, I want to leave boxing on my own terms. I don't want cancer to be the reason that I stopped boxing. I want to exit this platform on my own terms.
Yeah.
Boxing has a way of retiring you. You either retire or you get retired.
Yeah.
You either leave on your feet or you get knocked out and you leave on your back. There's only a few ways that you leave.
Yeah, well, that's so true though.
But I felt like I had enough where I could leave on my own terms. And so this joke at the table turned serious. I said, hey, Roberto, please do it for me, please. Hey, Mauricio, what do you think we do Billy Dib? And he goes, oh, no, he had cancer, no good. And I said, Mauricio, what if I can get a clearance? Would you do it? Oh, I would think about it. I think, are you sure? I said, please, Mauricio, please. Let's think about it. I get back to Sydney. I train one day. I feel like shit, bro. I feel like I've been hit by a steam train. Not feeling good, you know what I mean? I'm slow. My reaction time is bad.
How far is this from you when you got cleared from cancer?
6 months.
You're crazy, bro.
Wow.
You're crazy. You're absolutely crazy.
My timing's out. I'm slow. I'm not quick. I go to do a few rounds of sparring. I get touched up.
Oh, wow.
I'm not telling anything to my wife, my parents, no one. No one knows. I'm doing this all in secret, right? No one knows about this potential comeback fight. And so I had a good sparring session one day and I got him to film it. So I sent it to Roberto. I said, Roberto, I'm good, brother. Look at this. I want to show you. And he goes, "Oh, you look okay, man." He's like, "Let me forward this to Mauricio." So to Mauricio, Mauricio says, "If you get me a clearance, I'll let you have a farewell fight at the WBC convention in Germany." So now I've got this thing in my head that I'm preparing for a fight in Germany. So
How far out is this?
it's like probably about 3 months.
Okay.
So I'm doing 1 day on, 2 days on, 3 days. Anyway, so then I finally start finding some consistency. And my childhood trainer, who took me to 113 amateur fights and 17-0 as a pro, I bring him back. I said, "Harry, you know
What's his name?
His name's Harry Hamoud. I said, "H, I'm going to leave the sport of boxing on my own terms, but I'm going to leave with you because you're my father. You're my second father. And you and I started together and we're going to finish together."
Same way you came in is the same way you're going to leave.
I'm
Fuck,
leaving.
man, this is...
Guys, this is
massive,
crazy, eh?
I'm telling you, I swear it's wallah. So
You've had so many moments, Bill.
So we start training and all these things, and then the media comes through to do an interview with me, but I gotta do it in a subtle way where it's not a fight. I've got to sell it
Exhibition.
I got to sell it to my dad that this is an exhibition and nobody's gonna win, nobody's gonna lose, nobody's gonna get hurt, Dad. It's not a real fight. It's just an exhibition. Are you sure? Yeah, that's just an exhibition. Told my mum the same thing.
So you're watching now what you're saying to reporters.
So basically said, "Oh, look, it's just I'm going to leave on my own terms and I'm just going to exit out." Then Harry opens up about why he and I parted ways. And the reason why Harry and I parted ways is because when I was 22 years of age and I was 22 years of age and doing really well as a pro, signed to Golden Boy Promotions, basically training alongside De La Hoya, Mosley, Bernard Hopkins. My trainer, Harry, falls into illness and basically he falls into the disease of taking heroin. He's lucky that he doesn't die, but he's on heroin.
Wow.
He's on heroin for a few years.
Fuck.
He's in a mess. I had to part ways. I can't travel with him because he's not in his right mind anymore and that. And then one day he wakes up and he's just done. He's done with it. That's it. Kicks it out of his life, fixes his life, gets back into being there for his children and whatever. And I never pushed him away. I always kept him by my side regardless. He wasn't in the corner, but he was always there. He was always in the background somewhere. I never forgot him. But this wasn't a way for me and him to live on our own terms. It was something special, you know what I mean? So
Fucking beautiful,
it
bro.
became big that he came out in the media and said this thing like I was a heroin junkie and whatever, and all these things. And I still got to play it down that this is an exhibition. So I finally get to Germany and I got to tell my mum the truth. I said, "Mum, I got to tell you something." And she said, "What is it?" I said, "This is a real fight." And she said, "I knew from the start." And I said, "How did you know, Mum?" She said, "Listen, the way you were preparing, I just could see the writing on the wall."
Wow.
I said, "Don't tell Dad." And I said, "Let him watch, but don't tell him. Just leave it as it is." You know what I mean? And I told my brother rings me up a couple of days before that. He goes, "Hey, bro, is this a real fight?" And I said, "No." "Who told you that?" And he goes, No, because I'm reading all these stories, but like, are you like, bro, because they got you matched up as a fight." And I said, no, it's an exhibition, bro, but they're just trying to make it special, you know? And I went
Trying to
out-
make it special.
I went out and I did the business and I won in like amazing, I put on a spectacle, man. I boxed so well. I boxed like I was 20 years old again.
Wow.
Exactly how Harry trained me to box as a kid. I boxed like that, hands down, flamboyant, coming angles and
Wow.
everything like that. I turned the clock back. Even the commentator was saying that after a performance like this, I don't know how Billy Dib's going to retire. You know what I mean? Like, you don't retire from a performance like this.
Okay, but
I thought the same thing.
was there a part of you that thought,
There's
I can
something
go
that-
again?
Yeah, but do you know what I said to myself? I told myself what I'd been telling everybody else. Boxing gives you options. You leave on your back or on your feet. And I left with my flowers. But to top it off, I won and Lennox Lewis was there, Michael Mora. Some of the greatest champions were there, and some of the greatest champions in the past walked me to the ring. And I walked out to the ring with the song "I Did It My Way" by I forgot his name, but he goes, "I did it my way," and that was me. I did it my way. I left on my own terms. Boxing didn't retire me. Cancer didn't retire me. I left on my own terms. You know what I mean? And that was so special. And then you come back home and you're on a high. You've just been at the WBC convention. You've been given this amazing win in front of all of these amazing champions. Everyone knows who you are. You're getting all this love. And then I get home and I get a phone call from Eddie Hearn. He says, listen, the Saudis are trying to ring you. Can I give him your phone number? And I said, is everything all right? He says, yeah. He goes, His Excellency Turkey Sheikh has got a major event called the Ring Magazine Awards that, he's putting on a phenomenal event in London. He'd like to invite you. And I said, okay. He says, you've been nominated as Comeback Fighter of the Year. And I said, okay. I said, what are the chances of me getting it? And he goes, they're okay. He goes, I don't know. He goes, because you're up against Dennis Dubois, Nick Bell, you're up against Andrea, I think something Leo, and it was a couple of good names. And then I started telling myself, well, there's no way they're going to fly me from Australia business class. Mind you, they offered me a first class flight. And I said,
oh, well.
I said, can I swap the first class flight for 2 business class flights? For one for me, one for my brother? And they said, yeah. So I rang my brother Muhammad, not Emad, because Emad was the one that I'd take all the time. I said, Mo, you know what? I just wanted to ask you, would you like to come to London? And he goes, you serious? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, what are we doing? I said, I've been invited to the Ring Magazine Awards. And I said, I got an inkling feeling I'm going to get it because I don't see them paying 2 business class flights for us to go all the way there.
For a no.
That's what I was going to say, bro.
Yeah. To not get it. And he goes, bro, I'm in. Let's go. And so originally I was going to take Sid and then Sid couldn't come. And then, long story short, Muhammad ended up coming. And it was the most beautiful trip because I got to share this moment with my brother. And Oscar De La Hoya was there. Canelo Alvarez, all of the greatest champions of all times were there in this one hall. And it was like the prettiest hall that I've ever seen in my life, man. The setup was like second to none. The Saudis left no stone unturned in presentation. And Teofimo Lopez was there, Badu Jack.
Few heavy hitters, bro.
I'm telling you,
far out.
Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Shane Mosley.
Like the relevant boys that are
right,
still... Yeah.
Everybody was there. Anthony Joshua. The list goes on. And so I'm now thinking, you know what? I'm not getting this award. But I'm going to write an amazing speech just in case I do. And I'm going to practice it over and over so that I don't stumble. And I've read this speech maybe 1,000 times to my brother. You've nailed it, bro. You've nailed it. I said, I just got to do it one more time. You sure? I'll do it one more time. Let's go. Everywhere we went for a walk, I'd read the speech. So, you know what I mean? Anyway, so we go to this venue and we're sitting down and everyone's telling me, you're going to get the award. I'm like, nah, man. Like Dennis Dubois, heavyweight champion of the world, just knocked out Anthony Joshua, Nick Bell. And then they got up and did this amazing presentation. Then Ryan Garcia comes out and he says, and the winner of Comeback of the Year is Billy Dib. And my heart was beating through my chest. And as I'm walking to the stage, I said to myself, oh my God, boxing just gave you your flowers and you're still alive. Because boxing doesn't give anybody their flowers until they die. But I just got mine while I'm alive. I beat cancer. I left boxing on my own terms. And now I'm being recognized as Comeback Fighter of the Year in front of all these amazing people. And to top it off, I gave the best speech that I've ever given in my life. And as I walked off the stage, everybody clapped me all the way from the stage, all the way to my seat, the same way that they did all the way from the seat to the stage. Every champion stood up for me. Oscar De La Hoya, Canelo Alvarez, Badu Jack, Alexander Usyk, all of these guys hugged me along the way. Amir Khan, Adam Hamid. It was the most incredible feeling. It was that moment that I had been wanting my whole life from the sport of boxing. And it gave it to me in that moment. And the respect that I was given and the love that I was shown. And then to top it off, when I was leaving the event, Canelo Alvarez, who is considered as one of the best fighters pound for pound today, says to me in English, "This was a night reserved for only you." you are a great champion to overcome cancer. I'm like, man,
Wow.
how am I recognized by these great champions? And then just last month, Sid and I went to Saudi Arabia because we were invited to an event that was happening in Saudi Arabia, and Canelo Alvarez was fighting. And after Canelo won, I thought he was going to forget who I was. He invited me into the ring.
No way.
He says, come up.
You saying? Oh, you seen in the crowd?
I was ringside. He's like, come on, let's get some photos. And I was like, man. I gave him a hug and I was like, bro, you would never know what this means to me. This means a lot to me. Forget the money, forget all that. I don't care about the money and all that. Boxing gave me something far greater than money. Gave me the greatest memories, and it gave me the platform that I have today to inspire people to chase their dreams and achieve their greatness. And the greatness is in each and every single one of us. And if you believe in God, then you believe that you are a child who God has given you life. And God has breathed greatness into you, because God is the greatest of beings, and he breathed greatness into each and every single one of us. So don't you think that the greatness is within you? It's just whether you're willing to tap into that greatness to find it. That's it. That's how simple it is.
Amen.
Amen, Bill.
Bill, this has been to date, and I'll say this to all due respect to our past guests, this has been the most powerful one yet. And we are so grateful that you honoured us by coming here.
And I appreciate you for allowing me to share my journey on your platform.
No, really, bro.
And allowing me to be as comfortable and as vulnerable as I needed to be able to speak my truth. Because, this is, like I said to you, my job in life today is not about me anymore. It's about those around me. It's about inspiring the next generation. It's about being a role model for those who are going to follow me. And to know that if you are a Lebanese kid out there and, people don't believe in you, the belief starts with you, not with them. If you believe in yourself, you can be as great as you want to be. To every kid out there who believes that they can be something, continue to believe in that dream. And no dream is too big. And anything is possible. With a bit of faith, a bit of hard work, the world is your oyster.
Amen, bro.
Amen. Before we end it,
I got one question.
you go.
Can I change my DJ name to Billy the Kid now?
Hell yeah.
You know what?
My man.
You know what, Bill? If you do that, the greatest move.
100 bar.
That's not even a question. That's an honor for me, man.
Oh, my man. Thank you, bro.
For you to say that I've decided to become Billy the Kid because I was with the original Billy the Kid.
That's
Hey,
it, bro.
And I'm not even the original. The gunslinger is the original.
No, bro. No, you're the man, bro. Like, you're the man.
You're a manager now,
Yes.
and you've got a young kid. We'll call him a mature man, but young in his journey,
Yes.
by the name of Munir Fathi.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Munir? How far do you think he will get? And what do you love most about him?
What I love most about Munir is the fact that he makes me feel alive, man. He gives me purpose in the game of boxing. Forget on the outside. In the game of boxing, he's my only sole purpose now. Him and a couple of these young amateur kids that I'm looking after. I've got some young amateurs, good amateur kids. I've got a kid called Jordan, his brother Noah. I've got a kid called Idris, another kid called Zaid. And then I got my young gun, my son Laith. He's a little star. He's only 5, but he's cut.
He's going to follow that.
Bro, he can throw him. I've seen videos.
He's cut from the cloth. But let's be honest, right now, the journey that I'm on with Harry and with Munir and my Uncle Ange is one of the most beautiful journeys, man. I like when Munir boxed the other night against Wade Ryan and he won.
Devastatingly, might I add.
Yeah, when I got in the ring, I screamed at the top of my lungs because everybody picked against him, and I feel alive, man. I felt like I was alive. And the way he picked me up and hugged me, and I said, you know what, man, this kid, he's my responsibility. He's on struggle street. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. This kid is struggling financially. He's on struggle street, but he has the potential to be anything. He has the potential to be better than me. I'm not just saying that this kid is cut from the cloth, man. And I know that he has it, but it's just that we just need that. We need the people to get behind him. Because I'm telling you, man, this kid could be anything. And I will openly say this. This kid has the potential to beat people like Michael Zarafa. He has the potential to knock out Nikita Tszyu. And he has the potential to share the ring with somebody like Tim Tszyu. No doubt about it. He's done endless rounds of sparring with Tim Tszyu, and I know this kid's capability. They better duck for cover because we're coming. And if it's the last thing I do in boxing, I am going to make sure that Munir Fateh becomes a world champion, because that's what I promised him from the day that I met him. I said to him, allow me to manage you to that world title. I believe you got it. I know you do. And I believe in him, man. And this kid, all he needs is the backing, and anything is possible. No stone unturned. We are leaving no stone unturned.
Well, I don't know much about Munir, but I know a lot about his coach, his trainer, his manager. And in saying that, on camera, in front of all of our subscribers and all of our followers, I want to put my hand in your hand and tell you that bathrooms and kitchen renovations are going to jump on board to support Munir and your team on this journey and become one of your major sponsors.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That means the world to me, honestly.
And I've got all the faith. David has all the faith. And I actually believe he's going to be a world champion because of who's in his corner, because it's that mindset, Bill. And this is what I always talk to my boys when I'm coaching them. I've got a young cousin now in the Parramatta Eels system. He's a young gun. Mario Tartak was kind enough to meet him today.
Wow. To
take him on as another client.
That's amazing, man. I know Mario is the real deal, you know.
He is, bro. He is.
The real deal. I know that for
He's a good man.
He's the Don of the NRL, would you say?
I know if Mario's in your corner, then that's like having Billy Dib in your corner in the boxing.
In the boxing, absolutely.
I know that for a fact.
Yeah, and as I was telling my young cousin, it's all falls in your hands.
That's right.
It's your mindset. You can be the best player. You can be the fastest, the biggest, the strongest.
Yeah.
If your mindset is not on, you will not make it, because effort will always beat talent. Do you agree with that?
100%. You could be the most talented fighter in the world and not prepare, and you're going to come unstuck. And let me just give you one example. Teofimo Lopez is one of the most talented fighters in the world. He's got to be up there in the top 10 in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And he took something for granted, and he came unstuck when he fought George Kambosos, somebody who didn't even... I applaud George Kambosos. What a champion to do that.
Yeah.
But really, the truth is, he should have never done that. But that just shows you, when you work hard, anything is possible. And George left no stone unturned, and he turned up and destroyed the odds.
That's crazy.
And beat Teofimo Lopez. They just show, I mean, let me tell you something. Teofimo Lopez is special, man.
Crazy fight, bro.
But what George did, man, you cannot take that away from him.
Amen. No, you can't. No way.
You know what I mean? And let me tell you, that's exactly what he just said then. Hard work can beat talent sometimes. You better believe it.
No, I've seen it, bro. Trust me. I believe it, man.
You better believe it, man.
Well, on that note, Billy the Kid Dib, 3-time world champion.
It's got a nice ring to it.
It does, bro. It does. I like it. I like it. 3 times.
I can't be a dog, but I've got to give credit to Bill from Kahil Meats. That's actually his line.
Yeah.
He called the 3-time world champion one. So,
that's nice.
So Bill, thank you for that one. Guys, so glad to be back. We appreciate you. Thank you for your support. I am Joe.
And I'm Billy.
And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
Thank you guys so much.